if your salary is your only source of income, you are one step away from poverty. That's what I say. If your salary is your only source of income, you are one step away from poverty. And that's what happens when you are laid off, especially before you are retired. Because if you are laid off, you are not even sure whether you get another chance to get employed. The pensioners of today are benefiting from the contributors of today. So by the time you die, if for example you die at the age of 75, you would have gotten from the scheme much more than what you put in. So this issue of saying, it's my money, it's our money, maybe it's lack of understanding of how the scheme is designed. You get much more than what you put in.
From my experience, you see that a lot of people, when they retire, they go into destitution, whereby they have to depend maybe on their children, which of course in African society is okay to depend on your children. But it depends also if the children are able to look after you. But then sometimes you find these are people who once worked, but now they are in a situation where they can't pay their medical bills. Some of them, they even have to rent a house just to live in because maybe they couldn't do that while they were working. And I think for me, that's what I see as the majority.
I keep saying, you see, we are obliged to take care of our children, but let's not use our children as our investment plan. You're obliged to take care of your children because you brought them into this world, they didn't apply. But your children should not serve as your retirement plan. If I ask most Zambians, those who still have parents who are alive, how many are supporting their parents consistently and adequately? You find that there are very few. And if you ask them, why are you not supporting your parents consistently and adequately? The response they'll give you is that, no, I don't earn enough and I have so many responsibilities. So what makes you think that the situation of your children will be different? Even them will claim that what they're earning is not enough. They'll be preoccupied with looking after their children. So they will only help you once in a while when they think they have something to spare.
Hello, welcome to Money and People podcast, the show that connects the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. Today we have two special guests on our program. This is Justin Kangwa and Thandeka Grace Soko. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you
glad
so
to
much.
be here.
Okay, that is great. Just a brief background. On 12th November, our Parliament approved a motion which was submitted by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kanchivia constituency, Mr. Sunday Chanda. This was in relation to pension reforms. And today, this is what is going to form the basis of our conversation. But before we get into it, Justin and Thandeka, please introduce yourselves. Tell us a bit about your background.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kang. So my name is Thandeka Grace Soko. I have, I can say, over 10 years experience from the public service. I worked in sport, but besides that, I studied for a Bachelor of Arts with education, and then later on a Master of Gender Arts with Gender Studies, and then later on a Master of Business Administration in Entrepreneurship. So my work basically is mostly in community work and also women's empowerment. I think that's where my passion really lies, and just ensuring that we run successful projects. I'm also into consultancy, where I offer my expertise when they're needed. And I think I just love to see progress and development around the work that I do. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, at this stage of my life, my mission is to empower people for their golden years. And this is informed by my past experience, my skills, my knowledge. In terms of education, I've got a Bachelor of Science with Education from the University of Zambia, and I also have a Master of Science in Human Resource Management. And I worked in human resource. I was a human resource practitioner for many, many years. My last formal job before I proceeded on early retirement in July 2017 was that of HR manager for the National Pension Scheme Authority. So the last 8 years and 6 months, I've been doing consultants. And in the last 4 years, I've published 4 books, 7 books, 4 of which are on the subject of retirement planning and implementation. So the last 2-3 years, my focus has been to help people prepare for their golden years, because I've seen that most people slip into maybe some kind of destitution. Yeah, 2 to 3 years after retirement, they look like they've never worked before. Now, having had hands-on experience in retirement, 8.5 years, I thought I'm better placed because of my experience in retirement to help other people avoid maybe some of the mistakes I may have committed and some of the misconceptions that I may have had before retiring. So that's what preoccupies me. Going forward, that's my mission, to help people prepare for their golden years.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. And into the subject at hand, NAPSA reforms. 12th November, approval happened. This brought about, so many mixed feelings. But Justin, are you able to give us and the viewers an understanding of what happened on that day?
On that day, Honorable Sunday Chanda, MP for Kanchiwia constituency, moved a motion, a private member's motion. And allow me to read just from I think what he shared with the public. He said, for too long, our workers have been told that their own money is not theirs yet. We believe that pensions must reflect freedom of choice, not restriction. Our proposal is simple. 1, allow eligible contributors to choose between a monthly pension or partial lump sum withdrawal. 2, empower citizens upon retirement to invest, build, or start over using their own contributions. 3, introduce safeguards to prevent exploitation and preserve long-term retirement security. So the long and short of Honorable Sunday Chanda's motion was to allow contributors to the National Pension Scheme to choose upon retirement either lump sum payment or a monthly pension. Because at the moment, you either qualify for a lump sum or qualify for a monthly pension. There's a formula already. If you've made 180 contributions, which is 15 years, you already qualify to be put on a monthly pension. But if your contributions have not amounted to 180, you get a lump sum. So that you don't have an option. It's up to the system to say, oh, since you've contributed 180, you are on a pension, or you haven't reached 180, you get a lump sum. Yeah. But Honorable Sunday Chanda's proposal was intended to make contributors to the scheme have that option to choose either to get a lump sum or to be put on a monthly pension.
Okay, fantastic. And the Honorable MP argued that this is about economic freedom and treating pensions as deferred income and not a privilege. What exactly is the fundamental philosophical issue here? Is it about giving workers ownership of their contributions?
You see, when I read that, I was prompted or forced to think that many employees may not understand the NAPSA scheme, the National Pension Scheme, as it is, or maybe the way it was established. The National Pension Scheme is not a savings scheme. It was actually established on social security insurance principles. So actually, even the people that are put on a pension, they do not get what they put in. You get much more than you put in. I'll give you an example. If after working for, say, 25 years and then you retire and then you are put on a monthly pension, probably after maybe 7 years or up to 10 years, you may have, if you continue living, by the time you are living for 10 years beyond retirement, you'd probably have gotten paid all the money that you put into the scheme. Beyond that, you are getting other people's money. In other words, the pensioners of today are benefiting from the contributors of today. So by the time you die, if, for example, you die at the age of 75, you would have gotten from the scheme much more than what you put in. So this issue of saying, it's my money, it's our money, maybe it's lack of understanding of how the scheme is designed. You get much more than what you put in. Yeah. So people don't seem to understand that. It's not a savings scheme where you just put in, you just get what you put in. No, you get much more.
For as long as you're living, you continue living.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this, looking at the current worker, and I think I'll look at a person like myself and maybe people in my age bracket and maybe those younger who are starting out now. I think we also have to look at what kind of saving culture is around us, what kind of investment culture is around us. Because when someone retires, how people retiring, I think from my experience, you see that a lot of people, when they retire, they go into destitution, whereby they have to depend maybe on their children, which of course in African society is okay to depend on your children. But it depends also if the children are able to look after you. But then sometimes you find these are people who once worked, but now they are in a situation where they can't pay their medical bills. Some of them, they even have to rent a house just to live in because maybe they couldn't do that while they were working. And I think for me, that's what I see as the majority. So if I think giving people a chance to get a lump sum, I think for me is the way to go, because when someone gets that lump sum, like I'm looking at it from a business aspect, because I do help startups. Yeah. It will be easy for someone if they say, fine, I'm now retired, I want to start up something for myself. It's easier to build a startup from a lump sum because at least it's enough for you to maybe try here and there, make some fails. Because let's say, for example, the most common, you want to do a chicken run. Maybe you have some space. It will be easy for you to construct, to order some chickens. And if you are learning and you make a loss, maybe they die or you didn't do a good sale. With a lump sum, at least you'll be able to reinvest. But then with a monthly, it's very impossible unless it's someone who spent their years of employment setting out their future in terms of being sorted with accommodation, being sorted with their monthly and daily needs, then that works out. So I think I support having a lump sum and giving people that option so that it's not where the system has to dictate for you, but you have that choice to choose on your own.
Okay. We will get back to lump sum versus annuity later, but thank you so much for that. And if I may ask, how do you respond to concerns suggesting that allowing lump sum withdrawals could compromise long-term sustainability of the fund? So we can start with Thandeka and then you can come in.
I think on that one, I would say at the end of the day, I think I'll go back to also what he said. It's about information, being informed about it, and also what kind of, when there's information, people will be able to make informed decisions. And everyone will know what they're getting into. And in the end, if that effect or it won't be able to affect whatever consequences that they fear might be there. So I think what is key is having enough information for especially the recipients. Like, do you know why you're getting into this? Do you know why you want this? What are you using it for? I think if that information is available, and it shouldn't just be a once-off kind of information, it should be something that gets embedded in all of us. And I think for me, I like that Mr. Kangwa is so much into retirement planning, because I think for everyone who maybe goes to college, goes to university, and is looking at maybe getting a job, or even just being self-employed, I think we should all plan for retirement one day, because I think we all look forward to say, I want to grow old. So how do you plan on growing old? What will you be doing when you grow old? What kind of investments? What is going to sustain you? And I think we have not been talking so much about retirement plans, about how to handle lump sums, how to handle partial payments. That's why I think mostly when people retire, it's like it becomes a shocker. Like people don't know, like, oh, this is what I was supposed to get, or this is all I've gotten. Like it's something that we live to the end. And I like to think it's like the way we live in African culture, where we don't talk about death, we don't plan for our death. In the same way, I think we don't plan for retirement. So I think it's all about information, talking about it all the time, and reminding each other about it.
You see, for me, if a lump sum, or if the option access to lump sum was allowed, if it was by law established to say contributors of the scheme upon retirement are now free to choose either to get a lump sum or be put on a monthly pension, my feeling is that most people will go for a lump sum because it's more attractive. And without a doubt, that will shake the long-term sustainability of the fund. Let me give an example. During the COVID period, 2020 to 2021, the number of countries that allowed partial pension withdrawal, I know of Chile, Peru, Australia, Malaysia, and the US. Now, let me focus on what happened in Chile. 97% of the people who qualified to withdraw did actually withdraw. Only 3% did not withdraw. And that affected the stability of the fund. The same thing, because we are all human beings, the same thing is bound to happen in our space. If that was allowed, I can guarantee you most of the people would rather get a lump sum. And that will shake the long-term sustainability of the scheme. That's my fear.
But maybe also that comes back to maybe the companies, or in this case, the most common I can give is NAPSA, which is here. Maybe it also goes back to them to maybe sit back, because this is like them re-strategizing and looking at if this, because like you've said, a lot of people would go for the lump sum. I would also maybe go for the lump sum. So now it's the onus, I think, is on them to say, how do we cushion if such a thing happened? I think it's up to them as the experts to look at how would they sustain themselves, what initiatives, what incentives, what new investments would they have to go into so that they don't crash. So I think this, for me, also calls not just for the employer to look at, okay, fine, there's this opportunity, but even for them who hold our money to say, now if this passes and everyone comes looking for their money, how are we going to ensure that we're still afloat? So I think it should be something that wakes up all of us.
Yeah, because the challenge again is that right now, of course, NAPSA has investment guidelines which guide the way they invest the money that people contribute. Now, if there was an optional access to lump sum, my thinking is that they would need to have they will need to be liquid most of the time. Because as people qualify to retire and they want a lump sum, there should be money already available to get. Now, that is likely to impair NAPSA's ability to invest. Because if most of the money should be ready available to pay out, it means that NAPSA's ability to invest will be impaired. That's a challenge. And if NAPSA's ability to invest is impaired, it means that that will affect the long-term sustainability of the fund. What I fear is that there may come a time when NAPSA will fail to pay. Remember I said today's pensioners are being paid by today's contributors. Now, if people contribute money today, instead of that money being invested, that money is being kept there, ready to be paid out by people who are going to demand a lump sum. Because the human behavior, the way it is, I can guarantee you, like you said it, most people would want to get lump sums because they think they want to be in charge of their own money. What people don't seem to appreciate is that when NAPSA collects this money, they invest it. And when they invest it, it's also hedged against inflation. When you invest on your own, do you have the skill to hedge that money against inflation? You don't have. NAPSA for now are the experts. They know how to hedge their investments. And by the way, NAPSA is, there are two types of schemes. Either it can be a defined benefits or defined contribution. NAPSA is a defined benefits. In other words, what you get as a contributor is already defined by a formula. And if NAPSA's investments go wrong, government is the guarantor. Government will come in and cover the shortfall. But if you opt to withdraw, say, okay, for me, give me a lump sum. And you've never done in business at all. In your 25, 30-year working period, all you know is to work. You are a skilled worker, not a skilled entrepreneur. Yes. Your investment, things go wrong. Yes. I've experienced in the last 8.5 years, I know how to invest. Sometimes you think, this will work. And then the money goes under. No fallback position. What happens? And that's why for me, if we come to a stage where this will be passed into law, where people have to choose choose between getting a lump sum or being put on a monthly pension, I know it's attractive to get a lump sum because you think you can invest it. But believe me, most people, by the time they retire, they're only skilled employees, not skilled investors. So things will go wrong. Because when you invest your money, most of the instruments are not controlled by you. The parameters that you need to the success of an investment, most of them are not within your control. So it can go under. And then what do? You put a burden now on your children. I keep saying, you see, we are obliged to take care of our children, but let's not use our children as our investment plan. You're obliged to take care of your children because, you brought them into this world, they didn't apply. But your children should not serve as your retirement plan. If I ask most Zambians, those who still have parents who are alive, how many are supporting their parents consistently and adequately? You find that there are very few. Yeah. And if you ask them, why are you not supporting your parents consistently and adequately? The response they'll give you is that, no, I don't earn enough and I have so many responsibilities. So what makes you think that the situation of your children will be different? Even them will claim that what they're earning is not enough. They'll be preoccupied with looking after their children. So they will only help you once in a while when they think they have something to spare. So if you can't look after your children, just know that you reap what you sow. Your children will also equally fail to look after you.
I like the angle that he's brought in. I agree. And it also brought to thought to say, is this the reason why is it the pension fund, the old pension fund? Yes. Maybe that's the reason why people would take long to be paid, because I think of what he said, like eventually the system can crash because everyone wants a lump sum. I'm for the idea of a lump sum, but I think he's brought out valid points where he's looking at, okay, fine, you get your lump sum. If you don't have a strategy of how you're going to be an entrepreneur and what next after your full-time employment is done, then you can easily maybe lose it, the lump sum, and then now become a destitute. And that's where the monthly would have worked out better.
And also, you see, one of the things maybe we have not paid attention to as a country is that the National Pension Scheme is supposed to be part of a 3-tier pension system. And what I mean by 3-tier is NAPSA is supposed to be compulsory, and it's a basic scheme. NAPSA was not established to make the contributor rich. It was just established to take care of your needs, to replace your income. For income, it was established for income security. And that's how come the contributory rate is low, 5%. So what we get, if you ask me, although people complain, no, the payments are small. No, they are not small. They are a reflection of what we contribute. You can't contribute 5% and hope to get much more than what is being paid at the moment. So NAPSA is supposed to be at the top, the first tier. Then the second tier is supposed to be these occupational pension schemes. A number of employers also have other occupational pension schemes to which they contribute, and also employees also contribute. That's supposed to be a second tier. Now imagine if we live in an environment where all employers have these occupational pension schemes. In addition to NAPSA, we have the second tier occupational pension schemes, and also now the third tier where individuals at an individual level, you take it upon yourself to say, I'll be contributing. And I'm sure there are a lot of players on the market where you can actually make your own contributions. You cannot, this is my advice, you cannot depend on national pension scheme only as a way to sustain your retired life. No, you can't. It's not enough. It was established as a basic scheme, not to make you rich, but just to make you survive poverty. Let me tell you this. When the national pension scheme was being established, the thinking at the time was that your monthly pension will actually be a maximum of 40% of your last pay. 40%. And that 40% is on two conditions. One, you should have contributed for a period of 30 years. And secondly, that 30 years you should have been contributing at the contribution ceiling. You know there's a ceiling every year. Now, if we look at our national pension scheme, how long has it been in existence? 25 years this year, because it was established in February 2000. So we are not yet at 30 years. So there's nobody who gets more than 40% of their last pay as it is. Only the people who are at the bottom, the maids, the garden boys, because every year there's a minimum pension that is payable. Those people that we pay 500 kwacha at home, when they retire, at least for now, this year, I know the minimum pension is 1,708 kwacha, 20 ngwe. That's the minimum pension. So those, you find that what they are getting now is probably much more, maybe even more than 300% of what they were getting. But any other person, it's less than 40%. Most people would be in the range, maybe 15 to 20% of their last pay. Now, if you cannot survive with your current pay now, even complain, to afford certain things, you get a salary advance. What more when you are getting less than 40 or maximum 40% of your last pay? Can you survive? So you cannot depend on the national pension scheme as a sole survival means. You must invest at a personal level. And also employers are encouraged to also have occupational pension schemes so that we fulfill the 3-tier pension system. Yeah.
Should people be encouraged to go into business using their pension? Or is that even the purpose of pension, for you to collect it and start a business?
I'll say that as someone who's into entrepreneurship and helps startups. I personally think the pension should not be used to start a business. But if you have to, it can be used to start a business. I think business, entrepreneurship takes long. It's a long process. Like you have to learn, because even just when you look at most of the brands that we know, whether it's local brands, I'll take even Trade Kings. I think we knew Trade Kings when they used to make the boom paste. But now they're making a lot of products and they've grown. I mean, they're international and all that. Yeah. They started small in, I think even the Trade Kings should be more than 25 years. I think so, yes. So imagine when you retire, you are maybe retiring at 55, 60 or 65. It's rare that you find a Colonel Sanders who comes up with a KFC. Yes, it's very rare, but mostly people have to start. I think you have to start planning the day you get your letter or your first call for a job. That's the day you also have to start planning for your retirement. And if you have to go into business, I think you have to start from there. I'm an entrepreneur. So I think when I look at my own journey as an entrepreneur, there were times where I've tried certain businesses and it didn't work out. And I had to pack. Because I think in business, you don't have to hold on to something that is not working. So imagine doing that when you retire and with your lump sum. And then there are all these dynamics that come with business.
Beyond your control.
Beyond your control. Maybe COVID comes, load shedding comes, all these things, and then you were just relying on your lump sum. So I wouldn't encourage people to say, I'm going to start business when I retire. You have to start now, because you have to learn the market, you have to learn the network, you even have to learn how your product is going to operate, or even just your service is going to operate. But then if you find yourself like maybe you were a workaholic and suddenly you've retired and you feel, oh, I have to start a business, you can. But I think for me, that is risk. It's a risk, and hoping that you've also learned about risk management so that you are able to understand how you are going to manage the risk of losing that money. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, there are times when a retiree will have to inevitably start a business. If you get a lump sum, for example, because the lump sum will finish if you don't invest it. Now, I think the lesson is that people are working should learn to start running businesses, some entrepreneurial ventures, so that you learn the ropes. So that when you get your lump sum, you are going to get a lump sum. Because there are people who are only going to qualify for a lump sum. So they cannot just sit and say, no, me, I'm afraid of doing business. The money will run out. You need to invest that money so that it takes care of you and your family. So you need to start running businesses when you're working, so that you learn the ropes, you learn about risk management, which you referred to, so that when you get your lump sum, you can then choose to invest in something that you are familiar with, something that you have already experienced. That way, you know how to navigate risks, you know how to avoid certain things, you know how to generally manage risks. Yeah, so it's possible you can start, but like you said, it's not advisable. It's, if you are going to invest in business, it must be a business you're already familiar with. You already know the pros, the cons, and how to navigate. Yeah.
And I think the question maybe the viewers would ask is, you're encouraging employees now to say they should start a business. They are going to be taking away time from the organization. Yes, that's a valid point. But it also comes to, how does someone set up the business? Because I think a business should run on systems for it to be successful. Because if you have systems, let's say you run an agro shop, how do you order the products? How do you sell? How do you do the stock taking? So even if you're at the office and you've taught people how the system runs, of how you do the stocking, the sales, if people have to return, how you count your stock, you will not worry about, your time will not be divided.
Oh, yeah.
But then if you want to run a business where you are 100% in it as the founder, because I think when it comes to running a business, it's about the founder's vision. So if we are saying as an employee, you have to form or you have to start a business while you're still working, you become a founder, you become a vision carrier.
Yeah.
So as a vision carrier, your role is just to ensure that your vision is run through a system. We look at, I can give examples of some of the brands that we know that are in Zambia, brands like Pick and Pay, ShopRite, KFC, Hungry Lion. The owners of those businesses are not in Zambia. Maybe they're even relaxing on some island. But when you go to Hungry Lion, whether it's Manda Hill, it's East Park, you find that the same system is working. The employees are executing the same kind of behavior wherever you go.
Using the system.
Why? Yes, because the vision carrier, the owner of the business, has already told them how the business should run. So even as employees, when we say you need to start planning early, and if you have to go in business, start early, you need to understand systems. How am I going to be running my business while I'm also dedicating my time to my employment and making sure I'm not getting time away, stealing time from my. But of course, you have to. That's where time management comes in. I think for me, I view time management as not just being time whereby it's 8 to 17, but how do you manage yourself? How do you divide your time to say, okay, fine, this time my mind is occupied about my project at work, about thinking about the deliverables that I have to meet. But this time is now about looking at, okay, how is my business running? And what profits am I making? So how do you divide your attention? And also for family, for friends, and even just for personal development. So it's also a matter, it all comes back to what we say, to say communication, and even employees, because these are things that even organizations, companies should invest in. Because I think it wouldn't be nice that you had these employees who are very productive in their years, who gave in their all, and then after they retire, then you find them on the street. They are in tatters. They can't even take care of themselves. You hear they're in hospital. They can't afford medicine, and they can't even have a decent burial if they have to die. I think any organization or company should feel bad to say this person gave us their all. They should be able to live comfortably, and I think that's what we should be all driving to. So in the end, I can all just say, if you have to start a business, ensure that you learn about systems and how to put systems in place, so that even as you're at work, your systems are running and your business is growing. And when you retire, it's up to you to either get into it full time or continue as running it through the system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
Okay. You've spoken about the employees, right? Starting a business and so on. Is there room for the employer to have a realization that the ways of work have changed and they could then now adopt flexible working methods now? So, for instance, as opposed to presence-based employment, where you want me to be in the office from 8 to 17, can I not be in the office at 6, leave at 15, so long as I had tasks to do and I've completed them, so that I can, so long as I've already told you I do run a business. So if you can come in early, I finish everything that you needed of me. Can I go and, handle my work elsewhere? What's your opinion on that one?
I think for me, let me go first. I believe in every organization having an appropriate performance management system, because as an employee, if I've got my targets, I know what I need to deliver on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, and annual basis. It's up to me to plan my work. And there are times when I think that certain deliverables I'm able to do them at home. I don't have to be physically at work, because what matters at a certain level, I think, in an organization is delivery, not how much time you spend at work, but whether I'm able to deliver or not. And in fact, most employees in the Western world, for example, what they have these policies, flexible working hours, where they know that, in fact, the less the employees appear in person, the less the bills will be paid. Yes. For example, some offices, you find that an office, this office, when maybe there are supposed to be 10 employees working from here, they all choose to work from home. You find that the lights will be off, less electricity to be used on that day. So you find that the cost of running business might even go down. So it's in the best interest of an employer to come up with these systems. First of all, have a policy, a flexible workplace, flexible working policy, so that employees can deliver from wherever they are. What your concern should be is whether they have reported physically for work or not, but whether they've delivered. That's what your concern should be. Have they delivered in line with the performance management system which has been put in place? Yeah, so working from home is a good idea.
I think just to add, I think the world is evolving, and we always claim like the world is evolving. We claim like, oh, we are improving. It's technology has taken over and all that. I think even the way we work has to improve and has to transform, because like now we have artificial intelligence that is coming on board. So it means the way we used to work before is not going to be the way we work 5 years from now. I'll give an example. I think when I was doing my Master of Arts in Gender Studies, back then, I think the university was very strict. Like, you couldn't cite anything from Google. They wanted you to go in a library and go and sit and read a book. And if they had any idea that you used the internet, then you wouldn't go, like they wouldn't even grade your work. But now you find that universities have become flexible. Like the internet is a source of information.
In fact, they expect you to use AI.
So it's the same thing with when it comes to being an employee. I think some time back, the president did talk about, he said people should be ready to work at any time. like work he was more like advising to say work should be any time of the day. There shouldn't be a time limit. And I know some people maybe misunderstood it, because now I think maybe even some bosses thought it means you have to work from 8 to the next day, because but I think for me I got it like you have to meet the deliverable, and you have to make impact with what you are given. Like I think before we started talking, you were saying you look at every assignment at work, Mr. Piri, as a project. So if at work you know, like, we have to meet this, we have to serve our clients in this way, you have to personally divide and look at how are we going to meet this. If it calls for you to work beyond hours, then you have to meet those hours, and as opposed to showing up and just for the sake of showing up and then maybe being on Facebook
you're right.
and not creating impact.
Me, I don't believe that there's an employee should be paid for presence. No, you should be paid for output. What have you produced? How productive are you? Because you can be in the office from 8 to 17 or even up to 20 hours. And yet, what are you doing there? You're just playing computer games. But somebody can choose to maybe even work from 6. Instead of reporting at 8, they choose to report at 6. By 10 hours, they are done. They can even go home. That shouldn't bother you. For as long as they've delivered what they need to deliver in line with the set targets. Yeah.
And then maybe coming back to, because I think what we're talking about is retirement. I think for me, I would draw examples as an employee, as someone who started working, I think, in my 20s, and saw some of the adults who were retiring, and some of them what they went through. I think the question you pose comes back to the current employers, the current managers. How are we going to make sure that the next generation is not a generation of retirees that are destitute? Because like Mr. Kangwa has said and we have said, is it shouldn't be about going to work just to show up.
No.
It should be about creating impact, like ensuring that you do something of quality versus quantity. It's not just the hours that you spend on the computer looking at Facebook.
But what have you done?
What have you done? Yes, to number one, deliver for your employer, and number two, deliver for your future. Like, if I retire, how am I investing towards that? And how am I also investing in the success of where I am? And I think that's why we would find someone has worked all those years. They were very loyal. They came on time. They were always present. They never missed a day. And they retire, but we find them on the street being destitute. And we start, oh, that one. Because why? Maybe we never helped them to also prepare for their retirement. We only encourage them to say, you should be at work. But people have a life beyond work. Like, how are we also helping them to have a life so that we don't look at them as a sorry side? We are also proud to say, well, that person now has transformed. They run a successful school. They run a successful university. They have a KFC. They're a brand owner. They've got franchises beyond Zambia. They are now a trade kings. I think as a workplace, we would be proud to see such from our employees as well.
So, how do we address concerns that, I think we had touched on this a bit earlier, but yeah, we'll still go to it again, that the current system of annuities leaves many retirees in poverty and without access to their own funds? So we keep hearing of, if I had that money, I could have done this. If I had that money, I could have done that. But they're only giving me the 1,700 or, those contributions. How do we address that concern?
One way is, I referred to the 3-tier pension system, that as you are working, tell yourself that I cannot depend on the National Pension Scheme benefits. No, because it was not meant to take care of all your needs. It is there as a basic scheme. So you must, for example, if you're looking for a job, if you can, work for an employer which has an occupational pension scheme, so that you take care of The second tier of the pension system where I know of one, for example, which I may not mention here. An employee contributes 5% of their pay on a monthly basis, and the employer adds 10. So on a monthly basis, 15%. 5 from the employee, 10 from the employer. That is in addition to the first tier national pension scheme, where the employee contributes 5% and the employer contributes, say, 5%. In the third tier, again, let's try to invest. If you can do bonds, do bonds. If you can build a flat, a house, so that you have access to what we call passive income in retirement. Yeah, because remember, by the time you retire, your energy levels would have gone down. It will not be easy for you to run up and down, to have 3, 4 jobs. When you are working, when you are in your 40s, 50s, before you retire, and because of the access you have to a salary, you can use it as a seed. You can use it to invest in this and that, in several instruments that will give you passive income in retirement. So, as long as people continue focusing on the first tier pension scheme, poverty will always be among us. So let's have this 3-tier pension system. Don't just depend on the national pension scheme. If possible, you are in the union, negotiate with the employer. Try and negotiate so that the employer can implement the occupation pension scheme, where employees will contribute and the employer will also contribute. And also at the personal level, see what investments you can make using your salary as a seed. So at the time that you retire, for example, even if, according to the first tier, you are on a pension, at least you know that you have access to a lump sum from the second tier occupation pension scheme. And then the third tier will also give you a sum. Because mind you, when you retire, your salary stops coming. Bills do not stop coming. Bills continue. So how are you going to take care of those bills if you are only going to depend on your first tier pension scheme? The best way you can use to have a decent retirement is to implement a 3-tier pension system. The first one, it's a given. Everyone needs to be a member to contribute to the national pension scheme. Second tier, employers, as a good corporate citizen, let's try and implement this. And then at a third tier now, all employees are encouraged. I know we all complain that, no, we don't earn enough. And yes, that might be a good excuse. But I believe that if we scrutinize our expenditure on a monthly basis, some of the things we spend money on, they are not worthy our attention. And some of the dependents that we keep giving money, they can actually survive without us. But they make you feel like if you don't give them, they will die. No, they will not die. So you can make savings here and there and try to invest in a small way, not in a very big way. Others, those who have a huge salary, maybe can invest big. But those with a small salary, they can try and look for ways in which they can invest at their level. So let's make use of the 3-tier pension system. And I think we'll have better retirement stories.
Yes, I just to support, and I think just to emphasize on the 3-tier. I think to every listener out there that, and everyone, whether you're in employment as self or you're employed by someone, I think this is something that we are learning, that I'm learning also from Mr. Kangwa. Like, it's something that we should just hold, like the way we hold the Bible, the Quran, to say it should be part of our lives. And like you say, to say when it comes to the third one, where people will say, my salary can't afford for me to invest. I can't afford to start a business from my salary. I think that's what most people will say, because they're like, I've got needs. I think there was that saying to say needs never end. There's no one who will say, okay, now I don't have any needs. I'm 100% not in need of anything. They never end. But the important thing is to plan. I'll give my own example. I think for me, I have used that third one mostly, leveraging, I think, on my skills, on my God-given gifts, because I think I've come to learn, like, every one of us is born with a gift. Every one of us is born with a strength. As long as we are alive, as long as God gave us life, we have something in us that is a gift and something that we are good at.
Which we can monetize.
Yes, like when I talk to startups mostly because they'll be like, we need funding, we can't start a business. But I'm like, sometimes you have to use what you have. I'll give an example to say, at home, you maybe are a working mother and you're saying, I don't have capital. But when you sit, you are plaiting your girl's hair. You do it so well, such that people will be asking the girl, like, who did your hair? Oh, my mom. And people will be like, oh, this is so neat. So that is your gift. So why not call people in the neighborhood and say, bring your children to me. I'll do this at a fee. And that becomes your capital. So besides your salary, you start bringing those kids home and doing their hair. And at the end of the month, maybe you would have made 1,000, 2,000 extra. That becomes now the money that you are going to invest, whether you're buying a plot, you're starting a business, you're putting in shares. So each one of us has something that makes us unique.
That's interesting. That's one way you can earn money to invest, for example, at the third tier. One of my few, or is it many regrets in retirement now when I look back, is that I didn't utilize the loans at my disposal. I didn't utilize that enough. You see, instead of crying that your salary is not enough, most times we work for employers who would have signed MOUs with banks, and then you can borrow, and then the interest rate would have been negotiated. Don't abandon those loans. Get a loan, for example, which you can invest, because you know that you'll be paying through a payroll using your employer. When you retire, I'm not too sure whether you will have access to any loan.
No.
When you go to a loan, to a bank, the first question they will ask you is, where do you work? You don't even know what to say. Because it's like when you say I'm retired, it's like you are saying I'm leprosy. So employees need to make good use of those loans. Loans that are negotiated with banks, good interest rate. Get as much as you can, but make sure that those loans are invested in a good way. Because you see, when you get a loan, you have this money, for argument's sake, 200,000 kwacha, all at once. If you wanted to save 200,000 kwacha from your 10,000 kwacha salary, it will take you a long time.
Yes.
But if you get a lump sum as a loan, 200,000 kwacha at once, you can then put up something, invest into something immediately, you access it, and then that money will be recovered over a period of time from your salary. So employees are encouraged to make use of those loans, as long as they are disciplined enough not to squander that money, that opportunity. Loans are a good source of startup capital, especially if you are working. Not to get a loan when you are in retirement, you are starting up a business. I wouldn't encourage that. The best time you can get a loan, which you can use as a startup capital, is when you are working, because those loans are guaranteed by the employer, and you know that it will be recovered from your salary, even if you don't earn much, but at least you pay back over a long period of time. Yeah.
And just to add, besides the loans that he says employees should take advantage of, is also the incentives that the employer offers. If, let's say, you are paid to go on a trip, allowances for your accommodation, your meals, that's part of income, extra income. Or if you maybe do some extra work and you are paid, that's extra income. And I think it all boils down to, how are you planning? Like he's saying he's regretting not utilizing fully the opportunities of getting the loans that he had. So it's us learning these lessons and saying, when I'm in this situation, how do I take advantage of this and ensure that I plan for tomorrow? Or because again, it's also not about retirement. What about if systems change? Yes, and you have to be laid off or you have to leave. How do you now survive beyond that?
You're right, Thandeka. And you see, retirement comes in various forms. Sometimes you may not wake up to 55.
Yes.
What if something happens, or maybe the company is closes, your department is hived off, there's some restructuring, you find that you are retired at the age of 40, and then you were not planning at all. But if you start planning early, in fact, planning for retirement, for those who are watching us, should begin the day you get your first job. The next best time is now, as you are listening to, as you are watching this program. Start planning for retirement so that you're not taken unawares. If you say today you have look at what happened to our colleagues who were working on projects that were funded by USAID. Some of them were in their 30s. And they didn't know. They were shocked. And I think we had 1 or 2 cases of people committing suicide because it was like, in fact, when you is it Warren Buffett? He says, if your salary is your only source of income, you are 1 step away from poverty. That's what he said. If your salary is your only source of income, you are 1 step away from poverty. And that's what happens when you are laid off, especially before you are retired. Because if you are laid off, you are not even sure whether you get another chance to get employed. So if you are laid off, that's when you realize, the only way I knew how to make money was to work. Now that I don't have work, you think you are dead. You mistake your work for your life. So the best way to prepare for retirement, no matter how far away it may look, is to start planning now. See how you can invest in this and that. Try to do this. Try to earn extra skills. Skills that may not necessarily be related to the kind of skills that you're using in your job. Learn extra skills that you can monetize beyond your working life. Yeah.
And I think it's also, for me, I think I would also like to encourage, especially the HRs in these institutions. I think this should be something that becomes a point of emphasis. In as much as we can also say it's a personal decision and choice. But I think we are handling employees, their lives. We want to get productivity out of them. So I think these are also things that we should constantly keep talking. Even when someone is employed, don't just give them the form that they have to fill in for them to get their first pay and for them to settle into their office, but also start talking to them about them investing for the future. I think for me, the time I got employed, and some of the lessons that I learned were through people who, because I got employed, I think straight from university. I just stayed a few months, I think, then I got a job and I got employed. And you know, when you are coming from university, you're excited because you want to implement whatever you've learned into practice. And I went in with so much fire. And I remember, I thank God that there were people like that who would call me like, oh, you're the new officer, come and sit. And they taught me a lot just about also how to work with other staff members, how to treat people below me, whether those around me, above me, and also just how to plan for the future, how to, like you were saying, not misusing the opportunities that you have. And I think that helped me a lot, because I would always remember their words to say, someone spoke to me about these things. I need to learn, because of course that person maybe was older and maybe they were more experienced about it. So I think it also helps if in institutions, whenever we get new staff, especially those who are just starting out, to tell them about planning for retirement, rather than saying they'll also just figure out on their own, because maybe some people don't have the luck or the opportunity or to be told about these things. That's why we'll find someone retires, they've never invested in anything. All they had was their salary. And then they retire 1 month later, they are going back to the office and say, look, I need to pay my electricity. I need to buy my food. I need to buy my medicine. And then now the fellow employees at work, instead of just having a relationship with the former, they start avoiding you because they think whenever they meet with you, you'll be asking about, I need help, you know? So we should all work towards ensuring that those we are with, those who are coming, and those who go are comfortable.
In fact, if we start planning at that early age where the HR personnel They try to encourage you to start plan for the future, and then you also implement the second tier, third tier pension system. You find that you will not worry so much about whether you are going to get a lump sum or a monthly pension when you retire, because you would have been equipped just at a personal level. Yeah.
And I think for me as a country, it will also help us if we go that route, because I think some of the unproductivity that we see in workplaces is because people are stressed. Maybe thinking about they are in overdrive, wanting to invest for the future, so they can do anything. Sometimes maybe even that's where the corruption comes in, whereby people, because they are not settled, or some of them maybe they're nearing their retirement, and they're like, oh my God, I've wasted all these years, I need to catch up. So they'll do anything just to catch up. But if we start early, we are going to have employees that know, like they know, like, okay, I'm investing in this work, I've got a 3-tier, I've got NAPSA, I've got my employer who's also invested in this for me, and then I'm also doing my own. So even when someone comes to the office, they know, like, my future is certain.
In fact, you are right. And one of the things I've noticed, some of the people that I meet who are so passionate about getting a lump sum, if you ask them why, apart from the idea of maybe starting a business at retirement, some of them, most of them will tell you that, no, I need to build a house. When I'm working, my salary is not enough, I cannot build a house. My encouragement, I think, to probably government is to find ways, maybe fund the Zambia National Building Society and other mortgage systems, so that as soon as employees enter the job market, they can have access to those mortgage systems, so that by the time somebody is working for even 15 years, you find that you own a house long before you retire. Yeah. I think that deserves special attention, the mortgage system. So that by the time somebody who has a formal job is retiring, he or she has a house. So at the house, because you don't want to start building a house at retirement. Somebody I think got a lump sum, and then they were trying to seek advice from me whether you should build a house or not. I told them, have you ever built? No. I said, I would rather you look for a house you are going to do an outright purchase. Because if you've never built, and then you want to use your final lump sum package to build, the house will just reach window level and then the money is finished.
Like, I'll give I started building, I think, in my late 20s to early 30s. And like you are saying, like, the lessons that I learned from it, sometimes I tell myself, like, I wouldn't want to go through that.
No.
Like, and I always look at it like, if someone at 50 goes through what I went through, the stress, builders, especially the way we build in Zambia, it can be very stressful. You pay someone because you're a startup, and they do know, like, this one has never built before. So they'll tell you, madam or boss, so, and then next day they don't show up. Or they make you buy wrong things. And then imagine you're at that age where your health, because you're in the 50s, the BPs, the what are there. It's just not the right time.
So let's not wait until you are 55 to think of start building or acquiring a house. This is something that should start from the time you get employed. So employers, I think it's in your interest to see that your employees have houses, long before they retire, so that it's not one of their worries when they retire. You don't want to see a former employee of yours in destitution. No.
So this marks the end of part 1. Remember to tune in next week for part 2. From all of us at Money and People Podcast, it's thank you and bye.